Looking downfield, launching downfield, going for it all! It is close! There's Williams! His feet is Kittle, and a big play, and a stiff arm. George Kittle, flag, and Manning's going to hit one. It's a flag. That
Ladies, gentlemen, and all those in between or outside of it, welcome to Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan, right here on the Fantasy Football Network, coming to you every Monday evening until week 1 of the NFL season. I am your host, Evan Sather. Tonight, we will be doing a mock draft for a 10-team, 1-quarterback PPR Redraft league. Joining me as my guest is my favorite IDP analyst in the industry today. You can find his IDP articles on Footballguys.com, and you can also see him on the IDP Blitz show on the Dynasty Rewind channel on YouTube. Please welcome to the show, Matt Montgomery. Matt, so glad to have you back on the show on our brand new channel. Glad to finally have you on. I was a little scared that I wasn't going to have you on because you lost access to your Twitter account, but it looks like you got it back. But we got it going. How are you, my friend?
I am good, dude. I was more worried about losing the contacts than the actual BS content stuff I was putting out there. So glad to be back, man. You've always been good to me. I'm ready to draft.
Hell yeah, that's the way it is. I wanted to chat for a bit about your contributions to the industry as well so far. So, Matt, you've had quite a bit of terrific articles that have been coming out that are not just exclusively IDP related. You've got some preseason updates pertaining to the Minnesota Vikings, Miami Dolphins, Las Vegas Raiders, and Indianapolis Colts. These are free to view on footballguys.com. Without giving too much away, to not spoil it too much, what goes into these preseason updates for that folks can expect?
Yeah, so the way I look at it is there's 32 teams that are all practicing every single day. A lot of these teams are having the joint practices and then obviously the preseason games, which are snooze fest, let's be real. So the way that I look at this is it's almost like we at Football Guys are an aggregate. We're giving you all of the relevant information. It's not just who's going to be the starting quarterback, because in most cases we know those type of things, but it's the nitty-gritty stuff. Like in Minnesota, who is going to be the starting running back? There's a lot of things going on with Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones, a wide receiver 3 battle, and then just if you're a Colts fan, you live in Indy, you know the drama surrounding Anthony Richardson. Is he going to be the QB2 or the QB3, or is he even going to be a QB on this team? So it's little things like that. We don't all have the bandwidth to try to know every single thing about every single team. It's a great way that the staff puts together kind of the finer points of what you need to know entering your fantasy football season and specifically your drafts right around this time of year.
It's great timing, too, as the redraft leagues are starting to ramp up, which is why we're doing this mock draft this evening. But, I mean, at the same time, if you happen to play in IDP leagues, I definitely like to see covering guys like DeMarvion Overshown, which is an important key piece in the linebacker for the Cowboys, and what's left of Demario Davis that he has to offer at this stage in his career, right?
Absolutely, man. So I like to do 4 busts and 4 booms is what I call it, but we make it a little bit fancier on the editor side. I'm more of a talking head, just spitting opinion out there. The people behind the scenes come up with all the flashy titles of what you should expect, but you're really looking at 4 guys that I think will be great this year and 4 guys that I think you need to avoid like landmines in your drafts or in your dynasty leagues, whichever ones that you prefer to play.
Absolutely. We're going to get more into the IDP stuff in a bit later on in the show, talk more about the Dynasty Rewind. In the meantime, we're going to focus on the offense. Tonight's rosters that we're going to be drafting: 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 2 flex spots, a kicker, a DST, and 6 bench spots. So, without further ado, I think we're going to get this show on the road. Matt, my friend, are you ready?
I am so ready, man.
Here we go. We're hitting start. We're going to kick this off with me because I felt like being at the one spot. I've been really making people upset about different guys that I've been picking out of the one spot, whether that's Jackson Smith and Jigba or Jonathan Taylor, which I've been doing on our Friday Drafting After Dark show on Friday nights here on the Fantasy Football Network. But just to spice things up a little bit, I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb here just to see what happens with this draft order. Going with the top Cowboys wide receiver over all that talent that's on the board, just to mix things up a bit, because you never know with some of these home leagues where maybe there's a Cowboys homer that's like, I got to have this guy on my team, which messes up ADP. ADP is fine to go with, Matt, but you never know in those home leagues who's going to draft where, right?
Absolutely, man. I'm more mad that you allowed Jay Sims-Jones, my guy there, to get Jahmyr Gibbs at 1-2. I would have hated that in a real league, and then obviously Bijan Robinson goes before me. But I'm with you. A lot of these drafts, especially if you know your league and you've been in a league for 5 or 10 years, the same guys, you want to play that sight game. That's how you win these type of games. But I'm never going to be upset about getting my guy, Jamar Chase, at the 4 spot. I'm rocking my Joe Burrow shirt right now. Anyway, so call it a homer pick, call it what you want. I'm calling it the best pick of the first round so far.
Oh, hell yeah. So, for those of you who have not seen Matt before anywhere on the interwebs, this guy is the only Cincinnati Bengals fan I know, and I would argue that he's the best Bengals fan that one could possibly know. But we'll get more into the Bengals in a little bit. I also wanted to mention that with the diabolical picks I've been making in the first round of the last couple of shows on Friday nights, which you can tune in on Friday nights here on the Fantasy Football Network to see Kendall, Mike, and sometimes Phil joining in on that. So please subscribe to the Fantasy Football Network to see those shows. The last one that I did was Jonathan Taylor at the 101. We've been getting a lot of comments on all of our social media platforms, like completely bamboozled about seeing Jonathan Taylor go at the 101. And I've been asking people through our account, do you see Jonathan Taylor repeating his RB1 season that he did in 2021? And everybody likewise says no, not over Jahmyr Gibbs. I happen to agree with that, Matt, because how can you turn down Jahmyr Gibbs at the 101 with everything he has to offer at the running back position that you just don't get out of a lot of guys? Like, I mean, CMC is probably the closest one I can think of.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you finally eliminate the David Montgomery variable there, so you don't have to worry about. Now, I don't think he's going to get 400, 500 touches, and I think that a lot of those running back one seasons are volume dependent, so you're going to have to see that. But what I think that Jahmyr Gibbs has that will separate himself is his ability to catch the ball. I think that with Jared Goff still behind center there, they're going to be more of a pocket. I don't want to say a run-first team. I don't want to say they're not a run-first team because you have Jahmyr Gibbs. You obviously want to utilize him as much as possible. But I still think that the Lions are a dynamic passing offense. And if you have a dynamic passing offense with outside threats, having a Jahmyr Gibbs on there as well is going to make his ceiling as high as possible. That's why I like him there. I got 20 seconds here to make a terrible pick that everybody yells at me for. I don't.
Did you get sniped on Chase Brown?
Yes, a little bit. I don't like this pick, but I got 30 seconds. I'm going A.J. Brown. I don't like double stacking receivers early like that. I would rather go running backs a little bit earlier because I think they thin out more, but I felt like Brown's the best available right now.
I actually like A.J. Brown going that late, considering that I still have him as a top 12 wide receiver across the board because with Drake May throwing him the football, and they just traded Kayshon Boutte, which we'll get into in a little bit, A.J. Brown to the freaking moon as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, he's a great receiver. There's no reason to dislike A.J. Brown. With Chase, I feel like I've got that strong anchor wide receiver, so I don't like to double down that early, especially when I have that high of an upside with a guy like Chase.
Yeah, no, Jamar Chase is a wide receiver that you're never going to regret every single time. The guy is clearly a stud. He's got a stud quarterback throwing to him. It's a high-powered offense that I wish I could see a little better out of because I wanted to ask you more about the Bengals pertaining to Chase Brown after you make this next pick here, Matt. Because I think it's, in a way, a failure of the Bengals offense with how often that Burrow or whoever else is playing quarterback has to dump the ball off to Chase Brown with how many targets he gets in the offense. You've got Jamar Chase, you've got T. Higgins, and even Andre Yosivas proves to get some great slot work occasionally, but they can't figure out how to use Mike Gesicki. You've got these high-powered wide receivers and an elite quarterback, yet you have to give the ball to Chase Brown in the passing game with a lot of dump-offs. That's an offensive line problem, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Bengals have a lot of problems. I think the one thing that they don't have a problem with is their passing game. So if you can get anybody in that offense that's a starter that's on the field, you're going to get those PPR points, whether it's a running back, a tight end. Even with Gesicki, like if he can get you 3 or 4 catches in a game, he may not get you 60 or 70 yards, but he's going to be a safe play. And I think this is also the first year that Chase Brown is not being underrated. I think this is the first year of his career where people are drafting him appropriately to where his skill set was. And I'm a big value drafter. I think that that's how you win the leagues. You don't just draft, oh, this guy's a good player. You got to get good players in good spots or people that have high upside. And Chase Brown at the 2-5 right there, we're in a 10-team league, so he's the 15th overall pick. That's right on the high side for me because I do think that there are other people that may have upside advantages that Chase Brown doesn't have, and I love Chase Brown, but I think that this year you're finally starting to see him be drafted appropriately, and that's why, what you said at the beginning here, I'm not a big believer in ADP either. It just tells you roundabout when those guys are going to go. It should not be your Bible.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's why I love to do tier-based rankings because I don't agree with being too attached to one player where you have to be water in these fantasy football drafts. You have to be prepared to grab the next guy in that tier depending on the position you're targeting because if you get sniped, you can say at that point, well, that's okay because I can get this guy instead and he should provide similar value.
Anytime I get a Bruce Lee reference on a podcast, I'm going to be pumped. You have to be like water. Okay, I love that. And you're absolutely right. You got to go with the flow. Like, who do you know is going to draft CeeDee Lamb number 1 overall? It's going to screw up the entire draft if you start off with a CeeDee Lamb. Not because he's a bad player, but because nobody expects him to go where he went.
No, absolutely not. But I'm thinking there's got to be some home redraft leagues out there, mostly in the Dallas metro area, that has to have gone CeeDee Lamb 101 overall just because I know how hardcore Cowboy fans are, albeit more realistic about how much they've hated their team for the last 31 years since they last saw a Super Bowl. But that being said, there's always somebody that messes up the way that the flow goes in certain leagues, and you have to be ready for that. So it's not that I'm recommending you draft CeeDee Lamb 101 overall. I just want people to be prepared for the unexpected because that's always how these things go. Because even this mock draft is not going to prepare you for your own 10-team leagues because everybody's different. Everybody's got different values. Be water, just like I said.
Yeah, and you have to understand what rounds are the most crucial. Like, where does the player pool dry up? So everybody knows that the first round, you're going to have probably the same 10 to 12 guys. Maybe towards the back half of the draft, depending on how that first few goes, you'll see the back half managers start to change their strategy because the pool's drying up on that elite tier. And I think the first 2 rounds, you got to just pick the best guys. The people that you value the most, you have to take there. When you get around in this specific format, we're 16 rounds here. So you're probably looking at 8 or 9 to me. That's when we're all hooked on hopium. We are all hoping that the guy that we take is going to go from a round 8 guy to a round 3 or 2 guy next year. That's where you win these drafts. I think you can lose more of the drafts in the first 8 rounds than you can win in the back 8, if that makes any sense. But you can win these drafts with 10th, 11th, 12th round picks, especially with injury concerns or roles switching or, whatever may happen. So you just have to know where to stop, in my opinion. Where does your tier end? Why does it end there? And then who are you going to start drafting when your tiers are ending?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that. And I also want to add on to your point to remind folks as you're making your next pick here, you don't win your league at the draft. You win your league through in-season moves. Now, that's not to say don't set yourself up for success in the draft, but you also have to remember that you don't win your league at this stage before week 1. It's all about racking up those wins when you win your head-to-head matchups, getting the right players on your bench, maybe stashing somebody that you think could be a league winner, depending on how you like to construct your team. But, we also like to see where certain guys go. Like, I like getting Terry McLaurin this late in the 6th round. A lot of people still doubt him, but I like taking a chance on a potentially high-powered offense led by Jaden Daniels, and now they have Stephon Diggs to help out Scary Terry. I think that could be even more valuable for a Commanders team that I'm not really expecting to do better than 500 in the standings, but, that we don't necessarily care about that. We care about our fantasy points. oh, do I want to go tight end here? Fine, I'll go Kyle Pitts. But it's just because the tight ends are starting to get a bit thin
Feels about
here.
Kyle Pitts, man.
So I'm actually loving Scary Terry McLaurin at the 6'10". Like the fact that he fell this low seems not too shocking, but I want Scary Terry McLaurin over Emeka Egbuka, Devontae Adams, Luther Burden. Like maybe I have him higher than a lot of guys think in ADP, but what do you see for this season for Scary Terry McLaurin with all the doubters that say stuff like for example, oh, he's never finished inside of the top 15 more than twice in his career. He may be age 30, but is he? Do people really still need to worry about that?
I think there's a lot going on there. So first of all, I don't want to be the guest that goes against the host, and then our friendship is forever tarnished, and we don't talk ever again because of a silly mock draft ruined our friendship. I am not a Terry McLaurin guy. I have been pretty off of him for a while, but it's a lot of what you said that you kind of look at and disagree with. He has not finished in that elite tier, even though he's had an elite quarterback. Now, even when I know Jane Daniels was hurt, I'm not saying anything wrong about that. But even in the Jaden Daniels pop year, I just didn't believe it. And maybe it's because I've been burned on him early in his career when he was kind of came in as this lauded prospect and everybody was like, he's the next big thing, like we always do with Ohio State wide receivers. We always do with the new shiny toy that ends up into the league. But I just feel like on that offense, I don't trust the Commanders' offense as a whole. Not because they don't have players that can contribute, but you never see it get put together consistently enough for me to want to build a team around him. So he's one of those guys that I like to have people kind of, take him off my hands so I don't have to make that pick.
Yeah, I mean, to have him as your wide receiver 3, I'll rephrase the question. Yeah. If he's your wide receiver 3, do you love that?
I am with you on that one. Getting him as the 60th overall player, that's not too bad. I didn't have enough time with the draft to count the amount of receivers that went before him, so I can't speak to what number receiver he was. But I do think, as a wide receiver 3, when you've already got Lamb and McMillan, he's a safe option to have in your lineups. And worst case scenario, if he doesn't do it, he's a great flex option.
No, yeah, for sure. I agree with that. I love every bit of it. I'm going to take some chances here with Blake Corum as my 4th running back. I'm just going to keep going here. Let's see. Jacoby Myers has a hand injury, but you know what? Screw it. Let's go Jacoby Myers. I'm a big Myers guy.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's a mock draft, so injuries are off. It's like Madden when you're trying to beat up on your little brother, all right? That's what this is. So you don't got to worry about doing the injury thing here, man. It took everything in me not to take Ashton Jeanty in the second round, but I know that with all the stuff going on there, who knows if he's out for 3 weeks, 5 weeks, or 8 weeks right now. They don't have a media session until Wednesday, I believe, is their first open media session where they'll actually talk about him. So, he's still Ashton Jeanty. If he's healthy, you got to play him.
So, that's actually – I'm glad you were able to bring this up, too, because we have Ashton Jeanty that went off the board at the 307. Unfortunately, it's due to an auto draft, but the fact that Jeanty is going that late seems a bit diabolical at this point, considering how much earlier he was going on Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan. And now that it was initially reported that it was a possible knee injury, a possible ACL tear. Then it changed into an ankle sprain, which I thought was a bit weird because, the joints are not exactly the same, I mean, I may not be a doctor, but I like to think I know that the difference between an ankle and a knee.
Anatomy class, but I do know where the ankle and the knees sit on the leg, so I'm with you there, dude.
Yeah, and the fact that we still haven't heard about the grade of ankle sprain, we don't know if it's a high ankle sprain, a grade 1, grade 2, or whatever. And you also mentioned that the Raiders don't talk to the press again until Wednesday. Is the team just waiting until Wednesday to reveal this? Or because it seems a bit weird that we don't know more about this ankle sprain right now.
Well, he got injured yesterday. It was like 7 p.m. Eastern time, so you're talking 4 o'clock wherever they were practicing at. They have scheduled media each week. So the open practices for media and fans is Wednesday, and that's when they start to actually say what's going on. They keep the early practices pretty private, so you get the beat writers and the important reporters, but you don't get the hodgepodge of the Matt Montes and the Evan Sathers at the other one. So I think that's what I think that was. I don't think it was intentional by any means. I think it just happened to be that way. Football Guys injury guy Adam Hutchinson seems to think it's a high ankle sprain. He was pretty open about that on social media and whatnot too. So I don't think it's going to be anything worse than maybe like 8 weeks at maximum. I think you're probably looking at 3 or 4 weeks. And then to be honest with you, it's an ankle sprain on a running back. So you gotta kind of factor in that 2-week buffer period to see how he really looks. So he may be a dead pick this year. I'm hopeful it's just one of those nagging things that kind of takes him out of preseason, but then the rest of the time he's fine.
Yeah, so right now there's a lot of speculation if it is a serious ankle sprain where Genty might either have to go on the PUP or I'm not under the impression that Genty's going to be missing the season, but I'm starting to see some speculation about Mike Washington to the moon as far as the dynasty stonks are going, but they really don't have anybody in that backfield anymore. Zamir White is long gone from that team, who the 49ers just traded to the Saints. I don't know how the hell John Lynch pulled that off, but damn it, he did. There's really nobody else but like Dylan Lau back there. Who else is going to be back there behind Mike Washington? And speaking of which, I am going to take him right here at the 10th round, just to be a little reactionary.
So what I think, I don't think, I'm covering the Raiders for Football Guys preseason, and I'm telling you right now, nobody outside of Mike Washington is worth drafting. I don't care if there's a handcuff or whatnot. I'm just telling you, don't waste the pick. Let somebody else, and then if I'm wrong, pick him up week 6 or 7 when you actually know what's going on, and then you can rub it in my face. Yeah, hey, that was unintentional, but hey, we're relevant here, baby. So, yeah, no, Mike Washington Jr. has been the truth. He's been the truth the entire time. And it was kind of one of those things where they didn't – I think he kind of came out of nowhere. Everybody knew he was good. He was a 4th-round pick, so he was good enough, but not good enough to get into that 1 or day 2 kind of that round. He didn't get into those – rounds, but he has been performing at a very high level at camp. Outside of Brock Bowers, he is probably the most talked about player at their camp. And that's kind of wild because they have players like, if you don't count Mendoza because his interviews are amazing, but you got the Max Crosbys of the world, you got Kirk Cousins, who's a media darling, you got Mendoza, who everybody likes. But as far as on the field play and what people are showcasing, it is Mike Washington Jr., and it is by a landslide. We all saw what he did in the first preseason game when he was like introducing himself to the world when he had, I think it was like a 40-yard run, 50-yard run, 30-yard run. I don't remember. There's so many stats going through my mind here, but he was somebody I was going to take before Genty got injured. Do I think he needs to jump up draft boards substantially? No, because it's still Genty's job to lose. Genty has still looked better than him, but Mike Washington has been so shocking that everybody is talking about him. He's somebody that I would try to acquire. Good luck getting him in any sort of format, but he is absolutely somebody worth drafting regardless of Genty's health, because I don't think that they are an offensively driven enough team to focus solely on one back. I think they're going to try to win by more deceptions and scheme rather than just, hey, our best players are better than your best players. So he is going to have a role in the offense regardless of Genty's health.
Most definitely, and I think that's exactly why they drafted him as well, because they picked up another PPR darling in Dare Ogunbowale, who's a pretty good pass catcher. Nothing prolific, but he's a guy that definitely steals some PPR volume from time to time. And I think they're not going to throw Mike Washington to the wolves right away, but this is a backfield that if Genty can't play for a little while, I'm not so sure I want to start reaching on Mike Washington the way that I did, considering that I think the Raiders are still going to struggle to run the football because that offensive line is ass.
Yeah, it's what I think, and I'm sorry, I was looking at my thing. We're talking about the Raiders line, correct?
We are.
I think there's an underrated signing when they got Linderbaum. That is a big deal. And I know he plays center. It's probably the least sexy of all the offensive line positions, and it's the least sexy position in the entire NFL as far as headlines go. But he was, without a doubt, 1A or 1B best center in the league. And it's not just because he's a physically dominating athlete. It is because he can call the signals at the line at an effective way, and he can make the changes that maybe a young quarterback like a Mendoza wouldn't be able to make. But you also have Kirk Cousins back there, who is smart enough and effective enough to also make those calls. So you're getting the brain power connection of those two there. So yes, the line itself is maybe not as glorious as you would hope it would be, and not filled with those Dallas Cowboys dudes from the early 2010s. but it will be effective because they've got the right people. They've got smart people there that can make the calls at the line of scrimmage if they can sense what the defense is doing. Does it make them a 10, 12 win team? I don't think so. But I also think that they're not going to be the laughingstock of the league like they have been in previous years.
No, for sure. I don't think it's going to be that bad for the Raiders anymore. I mean, if we want to talk about laughingstocks, the other Ohio team, the Cleveland Browns, oh boy, are they going to be a bottom 5 team for years to come. I'll cover this little bit of news that just came out for them as well. Todd Monken said on Sunday that he's going to reveal who's starting at quarterback tomorrow, as if anybody's supposed to give a shit, right? And then it was revealed today that it was Deshaun Watson, to nobody's surprise, considering that the Haslam ownership group owes him $46 million this year. Of course you're going to play him. Otherwise, having a guy like that on the bench is a horrible waste of money. But that being said, I want no part of either Browns quarterback in fantasy football. There's no reason to be drafting them even in Superflex leagues.
No, 100%. I mean, nobody goes into a fantasy draft, at least in my lifetime when I was born in 1994, and says, you know who I really need? The Cleveland Browns starting quarterback. That's just not something that's ever been said. It may never, ever be said. And that's not to poke fun at my AFC North rivals. I have a lot of friends that are Browns fans, and they're just gluttons for punishment. So you don't go to the Browns and you look at those. But there are tertiary pieces in the Browns offense that are going to be good as long as somebody can get him the ball. You got the Harold Fannin Jr., you've got Quinshon Judkins. I'm a big fan of Dylan Sampson if he can get on the field. Jerry Jeudy is who he is, but he can do stuff for you. It's not going to be sexy. They got some nice wide receivers, and while they may be bad in the short term, they did just trade Myles Garrett for 3 first-round picks and Jared Verse. So they are going to have some real sexy rookies coming up here in the next few years, people that are going to get taken high because in the short term they're going to be bad, and they may get overdrafted just because of who they are. But I'm with you, man. Nobody looks at Cleveland and says, you know who I got to have? That Cleveland Brown. He is just going to – Jim Brown ain't walking through that door.
No, and our resident Browns fan, Jamie Perogue, also says, hey, now, the Browns at least get a franchise quarterback next year that they will ruin, being that the 2027 draft class is supposed to be quarterback rich. And I definitely think the Browns are going to be drafting one of them. So whether that's Arch Manning or whoever the hell else it's going to be, I wouldn't have much confidence in a Todd Monken offense either because, well, who the hell can coach the Browns into success?
No one. I think Evan and Matt will take on that task.
Jesus, yeah. And how much you want to bet that Kevin Stefanski with the Atlanta Falcons is going to outplay the Cleveland Browns in every way possible with the talent that he's got?
Yeah, the problem in Cleveland was not Stefanski. I will go to my grave saying that. And I'm not a Browns fan by any means, but Stefanski has not had a loaded offense around him and was making the Browns, I don't want to say relevant because they were still the Browns, but they weren't a gimme like they had been in the years leading up to Stefanski. I think they take a step back this year, not only because they lost Myles Garrett, but because the coaching difference is going to be significant. And I do like the Falcons, although I would never gamble on them.
No, I wouldn't either with how much they are pretty much a fair weather talented team, just like their city with their fair weather fans. Heyo! I don't want to say too much more against Falcons fans, though. I mean, they do actually have a pretty good fan base that were rightfully angry in the last Super Bowl that if Keith Fleming, if you're listening, I tried not to bring that up with him last week knowing what happened 10 years ago.
Well, I've got a question for you. Who wins the AFC North?
I think it's going to be the Ravens by default. I don't think it's because they're the best team necessarily. I think it's just they're going to fall into the 1 seed in that division.
I hate that. And that seems to be the majority opinion, unfortunately. I mean, and I think that they're getting a little bit of that, well, I know what they are, so I'm going to go with them treatment. And I respect that because I do that a lot too. I think it's an easy way to kind of follow trends. But this is the first year without Harbaugh, and this is the 3rd season in a row where Lamar Jackson has regressed. I don't see them suddenly becoming relevant. I don't see them as somebody that's going to, or a team that's going to all of a sudden fix all of their offensive problems. They still have an aging Derrick Henry, and while he is defying physics, he is still aging. And a running back that seeks out contact does not get less weathered the longer he goes in his career. So you have a regressing Lamar Jackson. You've got an aging Derrick Henry. There are just an aging Mark Andrews, who I love. I think the defense is solid, but they've also got Roquan Smith, who's a little bit long in the tooth. You're a fan of Roquan's when he was a Bears stalwart. So I mean, there's just a lot of unknown. And well, I know I'm a Bengals homer, and I'm going to come off as sounding like one, but you know what you're going to get with the Bengals. If Joe Burrow stays upright and on the field, it's a 12-13 win team. And if he stays off and he gets hurt, yeah, they're a 6-win team, and I hate my life again. But that's with the Ravens, you don't have that to kind of grasp on, in my opinion, anymore.
No, and as much as I wanted to answer your question with your Bengals, not to sound like I'm blowing smoke at you, I am extremely worried about that defense. I don't think it's gotten better at all, even with that trade, and I think they're going to be a bottom-tier defense that's going to result in a lot of losses.
All right. Off air, we're doing a side bet on that because I am fully on the Bengals defense bandwagon. You got Boye Mafe on the edge. They got Cassius Howell they drafted, who looks like a stud in practice. Sexy Dexy is the best interior defensive lineman in the league, outside of maybe DeForest Buckner, but he's also getting old. They also signed Jonathan Allen, who was a former first-round pick for the Commanders, so that defensive line alone has improved significantly, and that was the biggest issue. We could not generate pressures, and we could not stop the run. And they invested in interior defensive linemen and then some cheaper edge rushers. People probably don't know a lot about Boye Mafe, but he was flat out just beaten out in Seattle. And we saw that Super Bowl winning defense. It wasn't because Boye Mafe is a bad player. They just had absolute dogs that were playing in front of him. And I believe that now that he's kind of the man in Cincinnati right now on the edge, with the other edge rusher position kind of being open. It looks like Howell's going to be the main guy there. I just believe that defense is going to be way better than anticipated.
Our resident Giants fan, Classic Mike Herrick, is pretty sad about losing Dexter Lawrence. I think he's gonna miss Dexter Lawrence for sure. But hey, man, their loss is your Bengals gain.
Yeah, and you know what? I can't wait to be mad about the Sexy Dexy Week 3 if we go 0-2 in September like we always do.
Goodness gracious. So, yeah, let's review this draft as well. I was really hoping to work in a Kayshon Boutte question, considering that he did just get traded to the Texans today. But in a 10-team format like this, I'm kind of glad I didn't see anybody reach on him because, as far as I'm concerned, until we know more about DeMeco Ryans and what he wants to do with the wide receiver snaps, I think he's a speculative flex play until we know more. And if we can see, the Texans offense be a little more stable with protecting C.J. Stroud, who really sucks under pressure. So it's the Nico Collins show until further notice.
Yep, I agree. I don't believe in Stroud, and I apologize to my Texans friends. I just don't think that and my Ohio State friends for that matter, I think he had a great season, and I don't know if it's just that the curse of success where now we are starting to project, okay, because you were here, now we expect you to be here, and then here, because you're just supposed to build on it. And I don't want to say we've seen the ceiling with C.J. Stroud, but I feel like we're closer to that ceiling than we are the floor, if that makes any sense. Because I don't believe that his breakout season, what was it, not last year, but the year before, that may be the bar for what you get from good C.J. Stroud. And I'm more worried about what you get from bad C.J. than good.
Yeah, and like I said, it's because he sucks so bad under pressure that's why I feel like I can't never rely on C.J. Stroud to ever have QB1 upside. He's a solid QB2, yep. But I to find QB1 upside, it would be like finding a needle in a haystack, just because there's so many flaws to his game that I don't know can ever be coached out at this stage in his career. But it's like they say, maybe you can teach an older dog new tricks when he gets up there. Maybe he does fix this when he pushes 30. Who knows? But I waited in this draft as long as I could to draft a quarterback. And obviously, you're not going to do C.J. Stroud in a 10-team, one-quarterback league like this, but some of these teams did draft 2 QBs. The last one that was drafted was me drafting Brock Purdy at the 14-10. 2 more of us waited until the 14th round to get their quarterbacks. Some drafted 2 QBs. I would say that drafting a second quarterback in this situation, if this was a real league, would not be necessary. But Stafford at the 14-1 was a huge league winner last year. But I'm not sure that he repeats that, being held together by duct tape and bubble gum. And you don't know if he's ever going to get hurt. It's always just, don't get hurt, don't get hurt.
Yeah. And I think that if that were to happen, I think we've seen from Ty Simpson early in the preseason that the Rams would be comfortable moving forward. They've got a lot of weapons on that offense, and they have a great defense too. Stafford is kind of the icing on the cake. If he were to go, it obviously you take a tier down at quarterback. It's Matt Stafford. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer in my opinion. There's just no question about it. And obviously, you don't know. Ty Simpson's had, 2 preseason games, and who doesn't look good if you're a decent quarterback against the second team? But we've also seen players like Dak Prescott specifically who looked good in the preseason, and when they got their opportunity, they never let it go. It was like a Wally Pipp type of thing with Tony Romo. So I do think you can take some things from preseason games, and that's if a quarterback looks really good against a bad team, then that means that they should probably be playing against the ones. Whether they're a low-tier starting quarterback in the NFL or a high-tier doesn't matter to me. If they look great against the backups, then that means that there shouldn't be a backup. And Ty Simpson was kind of viewed as a project player, somebody that you're more projecting for the future than in the here and now. And Stafford is obviously a win-now player, but Stafford is getting older, and he is also getting more injured. And when you're that age and you're that rich and you've already got the ring, I just don't believe he's going to be one of those $1 million a year on my body to keep me upright and keep me healthy type of guy. And you have a guy waiting in the wings who can get it done, or at least will have an opportunity to. And that's what worries me the most about Stafford is if he does go down, does he ever come back?
Right, and I think there's a damn good reason that the Rams voided 2029, 2030, and 2031 in his contract because the guy's 38 years old. Like, Stafford, he's not Tom Brady as far as just a rigid machine goes in training, diet, and just discipline. There's only so much that Stafford can do, considering that he spent the first several years of his career on the Lions just getting the absolute shit kicked out of him with those horrible Lions offensive lines before Dan Campbell got there and fixed it. And now they got Frank Ragnow back, which should be interesting. But to stick with Stafford here, it seems to me that Ty Simpson is in a perfect position to be developing behind a guy like a Stafford because Stafford has this year, next year, and then 2028 in his contract, and that's it. He's a free agent after 28, and that's his age 40 season. So it seems to me that rather than bank on the 27 draft class for a quarterback, they want to see if they can do it with Ty Simpson. It seems like it's not going to be Stetson Bennett now.
Well, if you think about it, too, they also gave away 3 first-round picks to get Myles Garrett on that team, so they're not going to be drafting high either. So even if there was a quarterback available, it's not going to be the belle of the ball. So, no, Ty Simpson was 100% their lottery ticket for later. They voided the years from Stafford because nobody wants a 43-year-old quarterback. So they have a contingency plan. And the plan is we've got a great offense, we've got a great defense, we've got a quarterback that can win now, but we also have our future quarterback when Matt Stafford decides to hang it up or gets hurt or whatever happens. Now, the Rams, as always, are proving to be one of the better organizations in the entire NFL. And then let's not undersell the McVay factor in that offense. McVay with a quarterback, I'm in. I don't care who it is. If McVay revitalized both Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. So we have seen it in the here and now, and he made Jared Goff get to a Super Bowl, which we have not seen since he left. So there are a lot of reasons to love McVay, especially if you play quarterback in the NFL and you were on his team. I'm in. I don't care.
Yeah, and the McVay factor was, I mean, not to make it too personal, but that's what worried me about that divisional playoff game last year against my Bears. I was so happy when we took them to overtime against a McVay squad that was ready to win.
The Bears' playoff games last year were electric. I could not imagine actually being a fan.
Oh, I must have had at least 57 heart attacks and 70 strokes, and I mean that's the reason they were calling us the cardiac Bears last year. I mean, even up our rival up north, cardiac Packers too. It was a lot of the same thing where we didn't know who was going to finish first in the division because there was just so much talent and just so much on the board. But to get back to the draft here, J. Sims Jones definitely loves his team.
Off the screen. Get him off the screen.
let's
He's
go
in
over
my
his
league draft I'm doing on Saturday, so I know I'm going to be hearing about this team. I can assure you, Mr. Jones, you are not getting this good of a team when I'm in that live draft talking smack.
M Jones 82007. We're going to get to your question in a bit, but let's go over J. Sims Jones' team first. Your league mate in your redraft league. So I ended up letting him have Gibbs. He followed up with Bowers, Nico, Zay Flowers, Lad McConkey. Boy, do I love Lad McConkey as a third wide receiver. I feel like that's perfect for a 10-team format.
Oh, absolutely. No, I love getting Gibbs, Bowers, and Nico Collins in the first, 22 picks. That's an amazing way to get that because he's filled three positions with studs, with people that you know that when they're healthy are going to be insane. Brock Bowers has been the best player at training camp for the Raiders by far. If there was any higher to go, I think Brock Bowers will take that spot back from Trey McBride this year as the best tight end in the league. You heard what I was waxing poetic about Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he's amazing, and he would go in number one in most formats that aren't an Evan Sather Monday night mock draft. But so he got arguably the best two players at their position, or two players no matter what, that I think everybody could bank on having potential to be the best player at their position. I'm hot and cold on Nico Collins. I understand when he's healthy, he's good. I'm very much a guy that avoids landmines like that. I like to maybe it's more conservative, and that's why I don't win these leagues I'm in with J. Sims Jones, but it's because I just don't like the risk that early. But I respect it. I think he's a great player, and if he stays on the field, he absolutely has top 7, top 5 wide receiver upside.
Most definitely. I still love Nico as a sneaky elite wide receiver because everybody in the industry and out of the industry forgets about Nico, and I love that. I love grabbing him as a top receiver. Even in a shaky Texans offense, I love having him, and they only traded for Kayshon Boutte, who's not going to beat him out. So Dalton Schultz is not that good of a pass-catching tight end, so he is that offense.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks that I like his draft this much. This is the only compliments he's going to hear from me until after Saturday.
I gotta say, though, Matt, I don't love Bashal Tuthin as his RB2 because I don't think I want any piece of the Jacksonville backfield. I think it's going to be a hot hand approach. I think Tutin's going to lose a lot of goal line work, and I just don't think he's that good of a player yet. He needs to prove that he can step up from the season that he had last year, which he was looking pretty good last year. Yeah. But he also had ball security issues when he spent 2 years at Virginia Tech. He didn't lose the ball much at all in the NFL. He had 2 fumbles and only lost one of them. I hope it stays that way. But his efficiency on the ground was not very good, and I'm not convinced that he's the guy. Is there anything you see in Tutin that makes me wrong about him?
So I'm a Tutin guy. I'm with you. I would not feel comfortable if he was my second running back, but looking lower on his team, picking up Rico Dowdle as his running back 3, and then Bill Krosky-Merritt, and then Algier after the news, especially of Trey Benson being cut today. I think that's a solid running back room that's anchored by one guy, so he knows his running back points are going to be fine. You're basically looking at a room of 1 stud and 4 flex options. And those type of decisions are hard to make because you have to kind of pick the hot hand yourself, not just with, in regards to what you were saying about Tutin. But as far, I was looking around here and it's blacked out, so I can't really see you. Oh, yeah, Chris Rodriguez went 13-9 as opposed to 6-9. So 7 full rounds after Tutin. And that's the other guy in that as the running back there. I'm more Tutin than Rodriguez because I think I know what you get with Rodriguez, and Tutin is still like the mystery box. He could be anything. He could even be Chris Rodriguez. It's one of those, I trust the younger guy when it comes to running back on his first team than I would the veteran coming in that we've already seen kind of play backup, if that makes sense. I feel like they brought Rodriguez in there to teach Tutin to improve upon the things that you just pointed out, but they're still going to give him the lion's share of the workload, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to see how Liam Cohen divides that up. I fear that it's going to be a hot hand committee approach.
Having that coach that is an offensive wizard, I think you just want guys in offenses like that.
Most definitely. I love what Liam Cohen is trying to do with that offense, too, even with the growing pains. I see a lot of parallels with the Chicago Bears where Cohen and Johnson are both trying to just maximize the value out of everybody that gets on the field. All 3 wide receivers, both tight ends, both running backs, even the quarterback, get everybody involved. I'm seeing a lot more offenses that are revolving around the tight end, not limited to the Colts, the Bills, and the Packers, which is why I don't love the Christian Watson pick at 7-2, because I don't want any Packers wide receivers. Too hot and cold. They don't have a true wide receiver 1. It's not going to be Golden. It's Tucker Kraft.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. They've got a room full of wide receiver 2s and 3s. But having him as the wide receiver 4, your first flex option, I can respect that. I like that because of what you just said. He didn't invest in Watson as one of his starting wide receivers. His starting wide receivers are good. He's got Flowers, Collins, and McConkey. Those are solid players. Collins being the one that you think will probably rise above the others. Not a huge fan of the Ravens offense, so you can go, I'm hot or cold on Zay Flowers, but I think he's a good pick in any format. You just know what you're getting. Watson, he's either going to have 5 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown, or it's going to be 3 catches, 30 yards, and you're going to be mad. And that's kind of what you got to deal with the Packers wide receivers. I also took a Packers wide receiver. I took Matthew Golden at the 12-7, and it's 100% that same reasoning. I just don't trust that Packers receiver room. So I waited late, and he was my wide receiver 5, I think, and then I doubled or triple stacked wide receivers back to back to back to kind of backfill that depth. Because
I really like that.
Yeah, I just don't like that Packers room.
Yeah, and the fact that you waited that late to grab Golden, Shakir, Jacoby Lane, like, there's nothing wrong with taking wide receiver dart throws this late because you want that. I don't think Shakir...
Tate as my 3rd receiver because he's a rookie, and I just don't like investing that high a capital in a rookie, but I don't know who the heck else they're going to throw to in Tennessee.
Right, because, I mean, Gunnar Helm is not going to be the face of that offense, and, what's his face? God, who was that former Atlanta receiver they have?
Ridley?
Yeah, Calvin Ridley is not going to be the stud there anymore. His prime days are pretty much over. But they also grabbed Wan'Dale Robinson, who I think is supremely talented. But this is going to be in an offense that is run by Brian Daboll, coached up by Robert Saleh, which, okay, he's returning to Brian Daboll to do what he does best. I don't think it translates to many wins. I think there's going to be a lot of 3-and-outs, and I don't know what that's going to look like for Titans in general. But Carnell Tate at the 7-4, I don't hate that.
Yeah, I didn't hate it either, but I did that because I went wide receiver early. So I went wide receiver early, and then I filled basically the rest of my starting spots non-flex before I went back to the wide receiver well, and then seeing Tate there felt like the highest upside guy there. And then sneaking Jordan Addison in the 9th round, I feel like is an absolute steal because he's a contract year guy. And I love contract year guys and high-powered offenses.
You do bring up a good point. Maybe I will be wrong about Jordan Addison because I don't think he's that good. I think he's a one-trick pony as a deep threat where I think I would not be surprised to see Juwan Jennings steal that wide receiver 2 spot from him.
So here's a hot take for you. I am doing the Vikings training camp. It looks like Ty Felton's actually going to start over Juwan Jennings, and Jennings may be the wide receiver 4. So that's spicy. I know. Don't quote me on it yet, but that's how I'm feeling right now about Jennings. And I love Juwan Jennings. I tried to buy him all off season, and then of course I start writing the reports, and I hate the trades I've made more and more as the passing weeks go by. So I'm not afraid of Juwan Jennings. I'm more afraid of Ty Felton. And that's because they have not given Addison the deal, especially after Zay Flowers got paid early in the same draft class, and the Vikings have yet to really comment on that. That leads me to believe that Addison is truly playing for his job, so it's going to be up in the air. He may get written out of this offense. They may invest more time and effort into developing Ty Felton and then easing Addison out. So it is a bit of a landmine, but I just believe that, yeah, he's a one-trick pony, but he's really good at that trick.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I definitely will keep an eye on that. Let's get to M. Jones 082007's question, who's been patiently waiting. Hey, can you all help me? Quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end, wide receiver, tight end flex, wide receiver, running back flex. How would you all start this draft 7th pick PPR? So from the 7th spot, being that wide receiver has a bit more value because there's more flex spots, including 3 dedicated wide receiver slots to it. It seems to me that wide receiver is most valuable in this particular starting format. So whatever best wide receiver you can grab at that spot, I would do that. Whether that's Puka Nacua, whether that's Justin Jefferson, whether that's Amon-Ra, whoever falls your way, whoever's best available, go grab that wide receiver and then go grab a stud running back. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, not to mock you, I think that's probably the best way to go about it. So let's just say that everybody else in the league has that same opinion, and by the time you get to pick 7, there's been 6 wide receivers off the board. I think, and maybe that's not realistic. You know, the Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan are going to go ahead of time. I think that is the time where I would feel safe taking the Christian McCaffrey gamble because of PPR, getting a running back, because all the wide receivers are going to dry up. Because if you're in the 7th, he's a 12-team league, so he's right about in the middle. That's when I think you come back that next round, because by the time you get back, all those guys in front of you are not going to take receiver again. So the receiver pool is going to stay semi-deep until the following round. So I think that's when I start to zag a little bit in the drafts, go running back, and then if more receivers go, then I take a tight end and I'll wait to the third round to get my receiver run started while everybody else is trying to backfill those positions. But I'm with you. I think the more realistic approach is if you can get a good wide receiver, that's where you got to take him because you need 7 of them essentially, or 5.
Yeah. So, essentially, including those flex spots, yeah, we're looking at 5 that you could potentially start. So that's why I don't make too big of a deal out of how you format your draft because you're just grabbing best available at this point. So at that point, I don't really care, but it's just one of those things that I would still go for the stud wide receiver in that spot. That's just my opinion, but. It's like I was saying toward the beginning of the show, you don't win your league at the draft. Grab the best team you can, make the best in-season moves, go chase that championship. That's what I like to say the most. Yep. So next question here, hoping I understood this question correctly by Vikes for Life 183. Yo, you guys about to be done trying to run a mock? So good sir, madame, or whatever gender you go by. This is the mock draft. We did just finish this about 20-ish minutes ago. We're just reviewing who got taken where and what we think about each situation. So this is it, sir, or whoever. So this is probably a good opportunity to say, join the Discord server in the description below. You can be among the first to catch future mock drafts for either Monday night or Friday nights. We have a few episodes remaining until the week 1 of the NFL season before we switch over to our in-season content. That's where you're going to hear about what we at the Fantasy Football Network are doing first. So please join that Discord server so you can be among the first to know. Anyway, Matt, I want to go over your team a little bit more too, because RJ Harvey, that is, yeah. I don't believe in RJ Harvey even as an RB3, good sir. I think he's being phased out of this offense based on what I've been hearing about Jonah Coleman so far, being built like an absolute tank, and they retained J.K. Dobbins, who you took at the 11-4. I think the RJ Harvey pick is going to end up being a wash because Dobbins is going to be better than him.
Yep, that's why I took Dobbins, because Harvey at the time, I needed a running back. I only had 2, and I wasn't sure where the rest of the draft was going to go at round 8, especially with RJ Harvey being the best available in round 8. It kind of made me nervous. So I took him, but then I made it a point to get Dobbins when I did because of that. I also am a mega Jonah Coleman guy. I was trying to see on here where he went. I don't see it off the rip here, so he may still be available. And that's because it's a 10-team league, and that's why the waivers are going to be a little bit deeper. So I'm comfortable in a league like this taking more risks because the waiver wire is going to be a bit deeper than in like a 14-team, whatever league, whatever sicko league you go in that's like you and I play in. But that's, to me, when Dobbins is healthy, I'm not a hater. The dude's awesome. I don't trust he's ever going to be healthy fully. So you're never going to be able to trust him. Harvey kind of by default got all the volume and all of the love last year, and then they drafted Coleman. In my opinion, you don't draft Coleman, who a lot of people were saying at one point was one of the best running backs, if not the second or third best running back in this entire class. And then it was like, okay, then he falls a little bit in the draft, so everybody kind of simmers down. But then you see the reports coming out that he looks every bit as advertised in the college season and the early draft process. So I could see this being Coleman's backfield by the end of the year, but that doesn't win me stuff now because like you said at the beginning of the show, you do not win the league in the draft. I think you can lose it, but you can't win it. And right now I'm looking for early season wins so I can watch the NFL develop and change as I'm winning early, so it makes my waiver moves a less stressful.
I am so glad to hear you say what you said about Jonah Coleman because in my Dynasty League for my home 10-team league, he was my first round pick. I drafted him at the 106, which is a little early compared to where Coleman was going.
I like that.
I hope it ages well because I really needed a running back and I couldn't get Price.
Yeah. Price and then Love, obviously, were going to be gone. Who else was it there? I'm trying to think. Singleton. A lot of people loved Singleton.
Not in the first round.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm trying to think of like first, second round guys that I just am blanking on right now, which is so embarrassing. But, I just don't think right now the NFL's kind of deep at running back. It's pretty deep. I mean, even the old players like the Derrick Henrys and the Jonathan Taylors of the world are still must-have type players in fantasy football. And then you have the Bijan Robinsons, the Omarion Hampton, Jahmyr Gibbs, the guys that just recently came into the league. Well, I just named 5 of the 32 starting running backs right there in one sentence. So it's a deep league, but that's also benefiting offenses who are developing more 2 running back type systems. It may not be a true 50-50, but 70-30 and the 30 guy scores a touchdown, that still can win you weeks. So that's where the volume comes in and the value of these players. It's not about what team they play for, it's about where you can get them.
For sure. So speaking of Derrick Henry, let's go over my diabolical team really, really quick. So I know the comments are going to go nuts for drafting CeeDee Lamb 101, but that's kind of the point that I'm making with these drafts is just to expect the unexpected where, hey, maybe you have somebody in your league who doesn't know what they're doing and they do something like this, allowing the next person to get Jahmyr Gibbs. What do you do then? How does that affect the ADP or where other people go? But I grabbed Derrick Henry as my RB1. I don't hate it. I think Derrick Henry is not slowing down. He's still a stud. The Ravens are going to feed him plenty of carries. And I think following that up with Kyren Williams is also perfect, where age is just a number, people. Derrick Henry is still the man in Baltimore.
Yep, and then you follow that up with Ted McMillan. So age might be a number there towards the end of that. But no, I'm with you. Those dudes are established. I mean, how many years in a row did we hear people tell you that Kyren Williams was dead? He's damaged goods. Blake Corum is the real deal. I hated that period of time being on social media because it was like Kyren Williams would have 100 yards and a touchdown, and suddenly we're talking about how he's not as good as Blake Corum. Well, say what you want about Blake Corum. He did not get on the field enough to produce those stats, and I don't care what he might do. I need to know what he is doing. And players like Derrick Henry and Kyren Williams will still win you leagues just because they're part of the offense. They're the focal point of a game plan. You have to think like an NFL coach. They want these guys on there. They may think this 25-year-old sexy Blake Corum, he's going on there and he's going to be so good when he gets on the field. Well, I'm worried about when he gets on the field, not if he's going to be good when that opportunity arises.
And Kyren Williams, as mentioned here, thanks, I don't know who wrote this for Rotoballer, Kyren Williams is still a better pass catcher in that backfield, which is going to limit the playing time that Blake Corum is going to get and the amount of touches he gets out there. The change of pace carries in today's NFL doesn't mean a whole lot for the starter because a lot more offenses are running 2 running backs. And it's just like what Ben Johnson does. It's a lot like what the Giants had to do with Cam Skadaboo and Tyrone Tracy, and I think that's coming to an end now that Najee is there. But we're starting to see that more. I mean, even the Detroit Lions are famous for doing it too. That's not going to hurt Kyren Williams at that price. I made sure to lock up that backfield just in case, well, maybe Kyren Williams does get hurt. But even then, it's like there's still standalone value at a backup price. I got him in the 8th round.
Yeah. And if you think about what the offense that Sean McVay is employing, you're seeing a lot of 12 and 13 personnel, and they drafted another tight end in this draft. So they are clearly looking to load up on those jumbo packages, but they're not loading up on them so they can run the ball 40 times. They're loading up on them because it creates mismatches for the defense. So it opens up opportunities where these tight ends and Matt Stafford are going to force defenders they're going to force them to actually play the pass. They're not always going to run right down their throat. Blake Corum is a great player to employ if they were using that type of offense. But as you just mentioned, he is the second best pass catching back that they have. That's why Kyren Williams will be on the field in both of those packages because the Rams are trying to disguise their offense against these defenses, and Kyren Williams has more versatility in that offense, and because of that, he is going to get on the field more.
100%. And that's why I'm not worried about Blake Corum, and I'm more than happy to take him in the 8th round because he's got that standalone value. So, Matt, as we're wrapping up this show, I will end this with the same question that I ask all of my guests. Who do you feel had the best draft? And you can even nominate yourself.
Me, 100%. I've never seen a draft board of mine that I didn't love on the day of the draft. And honestly, if I weren't picking me, if I'm not being funny here, Lil Dinger, I'm a fan of what he did there, mostly because he probably, as far as what I can kind of see, took the most risk. JSN is a solid pick first. I think everybody loves Ken Walker, but it's a new team. You never know. Olave, I'm not the biggest fan, but who else are they going to throw to there? Lamar Jackson, I talked about the regression. Garrett Wilson, I am not a fan of the Jets quarterbacks, although it looks like we got a little bit of a quarterback controversy brewing there. Love Harold Fannin. This is the first year that he's the guy. They got rid of Njoku. Jadarian Price, great in the short term. Does Charbonnet eat into his workload like they used to Kenneth Walker back in the day, or do they just abandon him altogether? And then obviously, you got he had a rookie run here of 1, 2, 3, 4 straight rookies, and then he went Aaron Jones. So I think it's a gamble, but I love gamble because I think they're all high upside guys. As a matter of fact, he ended his draft with non-kicker and defense, 5 rookies and 2 vets. And one of the vets was a second quarterback.
You're right.
I really love it because you have Stribling. What are the 49ers going to do? They practice next to a substation, so at any given time, Stribling could be the number 1 wide receiver there. Tyson's hurt, but how long? He took Tyson and Olave. I would hate to have to make that decision every week, so I don't know. I just like drafts like this because in a shorter format with 10 teams, you can take more risks because the waiver wire is so deep.
Love to hear it, and I don't mind going youthful if you think you can pull it off to start off the season because the waiver wire is your friend, and you might even pull off a trade that could help you out. And, I don't know if I agree with grabbing 2 quarterbacks there, but at least maybe you could even trade. It's harder to trade quarterbacks in redraft leagues, but it doesn't hurt to try. But we're going to start to wrap up this show here. So, folks, ladies, gentlemen, and all those in between or outside of it, this has been another episode of Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan. One last time, I'd like to thank my guest, Matt Montgomery, for joining me this evening. Be sure to follow Matt on Bluesky and Twitter. His handles for both of those social media platforms are in the description of this YouTube video. Check them out. Be on the lookout for Matt's IDP articles on footballguys.com. Please subscribe to the Dynasty Rewind channel on YouTube to catch Matt on the IDP Blitz show. So, Matt, is there anything else that people should also be checking out from you?
Yeah, so I am going to be a busy bee this time of the year. So I usually have a running stock market article for Football Guys that is returning, but I'm also picking up the Reading the Defense article for Football Guys, which is one of the longest standing defensive articles that they've had since the late 90s, early 2000s. So I'm pretty pumped to finally get into that. Also going to be on 3 live shows a week. I'm going to tease a couple of the other ones because we haven't put them out there yet, but I am going to be on 3 live shows this week, including a Sunday start sit show. That was almost a bad one on your almost had to get the censorship out there. But no, I'm going to be everywhere. I'm going to be probably the most annoying person that you follow, hopefully, this year in fantasy football because I am just not going to stop.
Can't stop, won't stop. That's what we like to see out of you, Matt. So I'll be looking forward to seeing you catching your regular spots on IDP Blitz and anywhere else you're a guest. I mean, people will be able to see wherever you're going to be a guest on your social media platforms.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, love to see it. So, ladies, gentlemen, and all those in between or outside of it. So, this is the second to last final episode of Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan. The last episode of the season will be airing next week here at the same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, for an 8-team, 1-quarterback PPR Redraft League mock draft. The guest for that will be a bit of a surprise to finish off the mock drafting season, so I promise you will not be disappointed. After next week's episode, this show will become the Tuesday night waiver wire with Evan that will begin every week starting Tuesday. Hopefully that's obvious. On September 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central. It's going to be a similar format to this show, but we will be helping you with your ads and drops every single week. I will talk more about that toward the end of next week's show as well. This has been Monday Night Mock Drafts with Evan signing off. Have a great night, folks. We'll see you all next week. Take care.